I'm Paul Reavlin, and I'm the president of Revgear. I invented the Tombstone Pad with Darren in 1994, and I'm here to tell you why. In 1994, I was training with the folks from Krav Maga Worldwide. Darren, our chief instructor, was teaching all the classes. I felt like there wasn't equipment designed for the type of training we were doing.
And people were getting injuries like hyperextending and just silly injuries because the pads and the equipment they're using, it was terrible quality.
You know, Krav Maga is a street self-defense system, and a lot of the equipment was designed for sport. We needed to punch straight punches, we needed to punch hammer fists, we needed to punch uppercuts. We were doing front kicks, we were doing push kicks. So we were going from longer weapons to shorter weapons, but we wanted one tool that could accomplish all of this without moving that much. And you could hold tie pads for a lot of those things, but not really in the combination we were doing. We obviously wrap our hands and hit with gloves and all that stuff, but back then, you know, we were just punching things. You know, I punched things for years without any kind of protection on my hands and stuff. We trained in tennis shoes, so we were trying to use conventional equipment to do unconventional things. I wanted a new career. I was an accountant with a martial arts hobby, and I went to Darren and I said, look, I want to start an equipment company. I feel passionate about it, I'm excited. And he said, look, I have an idea for you. I've been thinking about this a long time. Come to my house and we'll sit down and we'll talk about it.
And from the beginning, Paul said to me he only wanted to make stuff that could be used in realistic training with a lot of force, that was durable and safe for everyone.
We sat down in the kitchen and he penciled out on a napkin a picture of a pad. And the pad is a little different than what the final product was, but you know, it was revolutionary thinking about Wade to make these pads. It had 3 angles on the front, so...
You don't have to move the pad, and you could practice those kinds of attacks that go from high to low, striking a 90-degree angle in this plane. You can use this part of the pad for a defensive front kick or a front kick or a straight punch. You can use the underneath of the pad because it's at that 45-degree angle. And so that pad can be used for rising knees, uppercuts, elbows.
The holder didn't have to move. You didn't have to switch the angle of the pad just to be able to accomplish these simple things.
You can see that if I hold it in any angle, it gives me 3 dimensions.
And so I set out to build that product, but I didn't know where to start. I was an accountant. I didn't know anything about cutting, sewing. I didn't know anything about foams, paddings. I was looking for a material that was extremely strong but wouldn't tear your hands up if you were punching it. I found a woman who had a business making canvas covers for boats. She looked at me and wanted nothing to do with the product or the project at all. And so I had to talk her into making these prototypes for me. We made them out of different color fabric so that I knew which was, you know, how they were stuffed, because they all had different insides. I was concerned about the feel. We wanted the feel of the pad to feel as close to a human as we could. And in between classes, I was gathering the instructors around, asking them to test them, get feedback to decide on what the final design was going to be. I think I have pictures somewhere of these samples. The handles are torn off, and you know, we were testing to see what would hold up, and a lot of things didn't. So I want to show you a couple things. The idea is you could hold it like this, straight out, and people could punch it with overhand, straight punches, or uppercut punches. And that's it. You could literally hold it here and accomplish all those punches. But I realized that if I started adding handles in certain places, I could make it so much more. I added handles on the top and the bottom so that you could hang it, hold it along your leg like a suitcase bag. I put 2 vinyl handles, 1 on each side, and 2 elastic handles in the middle. That is so that you could put your hand through 2 elastic handles, grab the vinyl handle, and use it as a tie pad. You could hold it here for knees and elbows.
Without moving the pad, you can give probably a dozen different strikes.
Well, this is a good time to talk about how the Tombstone got its name. I didn't want to call it a Tombstone Pad because I just didn't feel like that's the Tombstone Pad was equated to me, and everyone was, to these old tie pads that looked like a tombstone. It was straight at the bottom, straight up, and then it had a round top, like what a tombstone looks like in movies and TVs and cartoons. And so at that time when we were training, you know, our instructors would say, go grab the Tombstone Pads. It wasn't go grab the tie pads, it was go grab the Tombstone Pads. I can understand why if you stand the Tombstone Pad on its side, or you stand them up against the wall, which most martial arts schools or training centers will do, I can see why they technically look like a tombstone, but it was not really like what the original ones did. And I didn't want to call it a Tombstone Pad, so I called it the Punch Shield, and I called it, which was a really exciting name, and I called it a Punch Shield for, I don't know, 10, 12, 15 years. It was in our catalog as the Punch Shield. But it always had the name Tombstone because the Krav Maga Worldwide instructors would go teach people around the world, whether it was law enforcement agencies or martial arts schools who became certified to teach Krav Maga, etc. And so they always just called it the Tombstone Pad. That's what they knew. And so it just ultimately, it was one of those things I couldn't beat it. And after like 15 years, I changed the name, and in the catalog and now everywhere it's called the Tombstone Pad. You won't see a zipper on this thing anywhere. Two problems with the zippers. One is they blow, you know, so the zipper, you punch and kick these things enough that the zipper explodes. And number two is I didn't want seams where we were punching or kicking. And so the woven label is always in this spot. And the reason is because for the most part, this spot is never getting punched or kicked. You know, you know that if you don't see a Revgear label here, right here in this spot, then you know that that product was copied, and it was copied from here. And I can tell you that the companies that make this product probably don't have any idea why it was designed the way it was, because they're not me. And so they don't know what it is that what we were trying to accomplish.
And the comments that I get from students around the world, not just the United States, but around the world, is they love this pad. And to think that it was kind of developed on my kitchen table 19 years ago with one of my best friends, I just have to chuckle. It really makes me proud.